I knew when I shut the door after my audition, and then I forgot my CD case, you know? Then I went back in the room, and this was like every major producer, Sam, everyone. I was like, sorry, I forgot my CD case. But I could tell in their faces, I was like, you did it. You nailed it. Bring it on. Me and my girlfriends loved watching cheerleading competitions and also beauty pageants. So that's why I dropped Dead Gorgeous, because I wanted to see that. I read Bring It On, and I talked to Peyton Reed, the director, and he was so smart and cool. Like, we just talked on the phone, and I knew, oh, this guy is going to make something really clever. But none of us knew that that would be a success in the way it was. Like, we just thought we were making a little cheerleader movie in La Jolla and San Diego.
I can't believe you'd do that to Aaron.
Do what?
Especially with him.
What are you talking about?
Oh, don't play dumb.
We're better at it than you.
You're having cheer sex with him.
I mean, I was the youngest of everybody, and so they were having a lot more different fun than I was. They were in a hotel, and I was in a house with my mom. So they were going to Mexico on like a weekend, and I was having my girlfriends come down and like singing Alanis Morissette, going to see the Blair Witch, you know, or the new Dixie Chicks album, going to see Blair Witch in the theaters. So it was I got along with everyone great, but I was definitely still the innocent one on set. I did mostly everything. I mean, I don't know how to do a backflip. I was a bass in junior high, but I flew in Bring It On. I was a flyer in that too. You know, dancing and everything, it's always been a part of my life. I loved learning routines. I loved doing all of that at that age.
Okay, guys, let's go out there and do our best. Nothing hits the floor. We stick it. Hands in.
I mean, that's kind of who I was, you know? That was another side to me. Like, I had the virgin suicides in me, and then I had the Bring It On gal in me, which I think is all teenage women, you know? It's like when you hear certain musicians for the first time, you're like, oh, that is the way I feel, but you need help expressing that when you're that age. You haven't found all the words yet, or I didn't. When you're a young teenage girl, you're really discovering how to put your feelings into words, and everything is very intense. Spider-Man.
Wow, great reflexes.
I wasn't a comic book reader as a young girl. I was a Delia's reader. Remember the Delia's catalog? A hard candy girl. It was a long process, Spider-Man. I was working on Crazy Beautiful. I really wanted to meet Sam. I met with Sam, and then it was a very long time before my screen test, and I think Tobey Maguire was driving down Sunset Boulevard and saw me in those, remember those Gap ads that used to be on the whole building? He was like, what about Kirsten? And so I kind of maybe came back in the fold. I'm not really sure how it happened. And then I was working in Berlin on a film, and they all flew out to screen test me. Toby and I had amazing chemistry together. We're both very vulnerable actors, and it just felt, I knew when I shut the door after my audition, and then I forgot my CD case, you know, like my huge CD case I'd carry around with me. I remember I had like a little knit hat with cat ears. Thought it was so cool. Not. So I remember I left my CD case and I went back in the room, and this was like every major producer, Sam, everyone. I was like, sorry, I forgot my CD case. But I could tell in their faces, I was like, you did it. You nailed it. I did do a lot of my stunts in Spider-Man, and I remember one stunt that they tested on me once, and they like pulled me up basically to the top of a Sony soundstage, which is enormous, and they let me free fall until the very last second. And I was like, should have done that on camera. We'll never do that again. It was like a bungee jump, and I'm not that, like, I don't need that adrenaline personally. So that was, I put my foot down. I was like, I'm never doing that ever again. Sam Raimi is a very romantic, gentle soul, but he gave me this book before we did that Spider-Man kiss of like famous kisses from different photographers, and it was in a little book. And Sam had such a childlike, beautiful way of the way he would describe Spider-Man and Mary Jane and their romance. And so there wasn't a specific picture, but I was like, the feeling of making something that will last forever in film, if we can do that and accomplish that, I wanted to be there to make that happen for him. The actual filming of it was really difficult. Toby was getting water up his nose. He could barely breathe. It was torrential rain that they made, and I was freezing, but it looked great. I remember we were going to make another Spider-Man I think we were. I can't remember, to be honest. We'll see what happens. I mean, that universe is very open. It's anything. So for me to be in a Spider-Man movie again or something, it's possible, I guess. Interview with a Vampire.
Some more.
That was a lot of auditions, a lot of screen tests, and I worked very hard with my acting coach, and he would give me tools to make things look like maybe I had a sexy look on my face. He would say, pretend your brother's looking for his toy and you know where it is, but you're not going to tell him. And that immediately gives someone like a mischievous look without having to deal with any of the inappropriate things for that age. I remember him having me slam doors a bunch of times because it's scary to go to those places as a young person. I was very protected on set. I don't even think I watched the whole movie. I sat there and my mom would cover my eyes for a lot of that film.
Hannah, Louie, be like her one day?
More melancholy nonsense. I swear you grow more like Louis every day. Soon you'll be eating rats.
I felt like Brad's little sister, and Tom made me feel like a princess. I mean, at Christmas time, he had like this gorgeous tree in my dressing room, and they just spoiled me in a really sweet way. And also the clothes. I mean, Marie Antoinette had fabulous outfits too, but like Interview was a production that still to this day I haven't experienced in film. Everything was mostly practical, so the lack of special effects and like a lot of stunt work, homes on fire that they built specifically to light on fire, and the sets were just incredible. I mean, I remember dancing with Brad in this gorgeous place in Paris. To shoot in New Orleans and Paris and London on one production, it's just those times of making movies like that, they just don't exist anymore.
Do you want me to be yourself forever?
What do you don't?
Why not? Can't I change like everybody else?
I think at that point, all of these scenes almost felt like a play. I knew them so well. I had auditioned all of them, and it was such a long process getting that role. I was like a racehorse ready to go, and I wasn't afraid to, go there. When I think about that movie, I'm just like, we literally were vampires. We lived at night. We shot at night, always. So it was weird to, get up and do homework at like 3 p.m. and then go to work. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
You should not have seen this. I apologize. This is a hoax, right? And this is Clem. I assure you no.
No. I read Eternal Sunshine, and I thought this was the best script I've ever read in my life. All Charlie's scripts are like reading a brilliant book. I actually had to kind of chase that movie. I met Michelle. I remember our meeting. He wasn't sure I was the girl from Spider-Man. You know what I mean? So a lot of people saw me maybe as that, and I just wanted to do that movie so badly. A lot of the way of working with Michelle was following the actors, really, and having a fluidity and a very naturalistic way of filming it. Had the idea of swirling in my chair instead of just sitting there, and we had already done a bunch of takes, but none of that matters with working with Michelle. We just did it again in a different way. And also, a lot of things were done practically, which was really cool. Like, I remember Jim Carrey would change costumes quickly, and they'd pan to something else, and then he'd have a beanie on or whatever it was, or just holding up like a screen in front of the camera to blur something out. I was very impressed by all the practical special effects that were very simple.
It's beautiful. You look at a baby and it's so
pure and so free and so clean, and adults are like this mess of sadness and phobias.
We were both sober. We weren't smoking weed. All my scenes with Jim, he had a, the brain helmet thing on. I don't even remember what it's called. And he was just lying in bed asleep. Those were like his break days, I guess. Just listening to me and Mark. Virgin suicides.
I thought you died in there. Are you done hugging in the bathroom? I need something. Do you mind?
I remember reading the script and being actually really nervous because Lux was a little bit promiscuous, and I was so nervous about any scene like that, which Sophia handled so well for me. I didn't even have to kiss the guys on the roof. Like, she was just like, just pretend and move your hair in front of your face and just like nuzzle into their neck or something. So she saved me with that stuff. Because I was a very innocent 15, 16-year-old. She's very soft, Sophia, and very kind and generous, and it was kind of a no-brainer, to work with her. But I was nervous to play that role. It's like, I wasn't playing footsie with dudes under a table, I was playing with Barbies probably for far too long. To be honest, the scene that made me the most nervous was having to jump on Josh Hartnett in the car and make out with him. And I remember once he was like, "Oh, I think you bit me." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was so mortified. And one time his wig got weird. And like, I had kissed a guy in real life before, but I had never jumped on and in the car. And I just was very innocent. And that was like a lot for me. Sophia played music, so it'd be a little bit more relaxing. I think she played the music that's actually in the movie, as I remember. I think the roles I picked were scripts that I wanted to see. Whether it was a comedy or with the Virgin Suicides, I wanted to work with Sophia. I just chose what I wanted to see. And if that was what other people wanted to see, then it was successful. And if it wasn't, then it wasn't. I saw Sophia's short film, Lick the Star, and I just knew that because of the way she grew up, she would do an incredible job. Being on sets your whole life and bringing this story together. I also like the idea of being a sisterhood again, like in Little Women. I really enjoyed that experience. What's interesting is the scene where you don't see me die in Virgin Suicides. You just see my arm outside the car window in the garage, and that's Sophia's arm. Because I couldn't be there. I don't know why. I wrapped early or they needed a shot. So that's not even my arm, it's Sophia's. Marie Antoinette.
Let them eat cake. That's such nonsense. I would never say that.
Well, first of all, I would do anything Sophia wanted me to do. I met her at the chateau and she gave me this Antonio Fraser novel of Marie Antoinette. And she's like, "I want you to play Marie Antoinette." I'm like, "Really? Okay." I was very intimidated by the idea of it, but knowing Sophia, she wanted to portray, the essence of her and really what she went through, which was being a very young woman and thrown into this situation that she was so unprepared for. And Sophia always brings up the small moments, the in-between moments to life in such beautiful ways where you really get to be with a person privately, which are always my favorite scenes in film. I feel like most of the movie is private moments with Marie Antoinette. We only shot at Versailles on Mondays, and then we decorated a chateau with different rooms to be Versailles. It was interesting to see the back quarters that no one gets to see, like their little toilets and stuff like that. It was so crazy. That was the coolest thing to me, is their private quarters, which were very tiny. And then you go to these grand things. So it's all just such a performance, For me, it was just a fish out of water, really, Marie Antoinette, and also isolation and not knowing how to handle any of it. For that scene where I bowed to the crowd, I was thinking about her death and giving them my head in a way. And also kind of apologizing too. Melancholia. I was working in Montreal, and they were like, Lars von Trier wants to meet you. I think we just talked on the phone, to be honest, but I got the script. I read it immediately. And the script it was also written like, it felt like a play or something. And actually, the reason I got that role was because of Paul Thomas Anderson told Lars, like, you should hire Kirsten for this role. That was really amazing of him. I loved working on Melancholia. It did feel like we were making a play and that it was very intimate. And I always like making movies when you feel like you're not worried if anyone's ever going to see it or what you do or anything. So there's a freedom to it that you just are having a really special time and nothing else matters really, you know? It just is, that movie felt that way.
You're not even halfway through yet. No, you're right. I have to pull myself together.
Honestly, when you're in the best part of yourself, I think you can go to the worst places. I'd wrap the day and we were all staying at this Swedish hotel / there was homes on the property, and I'd get my risotto and have a glass of wine and watch some crappy TV. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta relax after days like that. But also, I'm so not afraid to go there. I have no fear of going to really difficult places. We rehearsed, but we rehearsed for the feeling of something. Not rehearse the actual scenes, but like Charlotte and I would kind of do an improvise of like me trying to eat something and her trying to encourage me to eat, or me trying to fold clothes, or anything that was around her house she was staying in. Like, we were just kind of getting that sister dynamic, and for Lars to be able to see the feeling, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
The earth is evil. We don't need to grieve for it. What? Nobody will miss it.
Me and Charlotte instantly were actors that really listened to each other, and no one has any pre-planned way of doing something. I mean, I'm sure she does her own work and had to prepare for something, and so do I. But when we actually come together, we're with each other, and she's so natural, and certain people, it's so easy. There's a flow to it where it doesn't even feel like you're acting. Left to right. I think also it has to do with who's behind the camera. I think that doing a lot of handheld stuff a lot of times allows you that freedom, and it feels more like you're documenting someone's life. But then a lot of things were really planned and set up. So, you know, I think as an actor and a director, you migrate to people that have similar sensibilities in some ways. I like people who do things different, you know, and who are very provocative filmmakers, and it's fun. I mean, I love making movies, and I want to make movies that matter to people. That one matters. Fargo.
I ran over him. Hit and run. And then you stabbed him with a gardening tool. The cops, do you think they're gonna believe us?
I don't know, but people are gonna look for him.
But look, I was careful. I drove the back way all the way home.
Peggy. Peggy was one of the most fun roles I've ever played, I think. And I met my husband. It's just like roles like that aren't written. Like, I loved her crazy, delusional mind, and I loved doing dark comedy, and that was just the perfect role for me. Because you get those scripts, not, you know, you don't get all of them at once. You know, sometimes you're like, what is Peggy doing now? Like, oh my God.
Bitch.
What did I just see? You gonna be nice?
For Peggy, it was just like nicking someone, or like, you know, like whatever it was, it's not a knife to her. You know what I mean? I forgot what my thought was behind that process, because it's been a long time now, but it definitely wasn't, I'm stabbing someone. It was probably like, I was like, you're a naughty little boy, you know, and that was the vibe more.
We cover the damage, file a report, and then, I mean, that should do it. We got rid of the guy's all grown up, and you burned his clothes, you said, so once the car's fixed, we're free.
It was so fun to balance all of that. And working with Jesse, we really fell in love creatively first. And we rehearsed a lot together. And it was just certain actors you just fly with creatively. It's so effortless because we both are very hard workers. And then when you come together with someone that has the same work ethic as you, it's the most fun thing ever. Little Women.
Are limes the fashion now?
Of course they are. It's nothing but limes now. Everyone keeps them in their desks and trades them for beads and things. And all the girls treat each other at recess. If you don't bring limes to school, you're nothing. You might as well be dead.
Right after Interview with the Vampire, I did Little Women. So that was the perfect juxtaposition of being on a very male-dominated set and then being with, like, the most powerful females. So it was a great balance.
My dearest family, I am well and safe. Our battalion is encamped on the Potomac.
Gillian Armstrong was the director, and I was working with, Susan Sarandon, and her daughter and I would make lemonade stands at lunchtime for the crew. And it just felt like so cozy compared to, it was such a weird balance, but I think that kind of set up the foundation for my choices in life and for the rest of my career because I worked with such powerful, kind men, and then I worked with really incredible powerful women. I never thought, oh, she's a female director. That's me. It didn't matter to me ever. Their influence on me, a huge deal.
Oh, I shall miss my Little Women.
I just felt so comfortable and cozy, and I looked up to Claire and Winona Ryder, and I just felt special being able to be a part of the legacy of telling that movie and that book. Drop Dead Gorgeous.
I'm Amber Adkins, and I'm signing up because my two favorite people in the whole world competed in pageants. My mom and Diane Sawyer.
I just loved watching beauty pageants so much. I auditioned for that movie, and I wanted it so badly. I love doing comedy, and that was the perfect dark comedy sensibility that I loved. And I loved Ellen Barkin and Allison Janney, and I knew Brittany Murphy very well, and we made another movie together after that. It was fun doing the fight scene with Denise Richards.
Well, as my mother says at Sunday dinner, come and get it! I'll get it! I'll get it! All right, I might even take seconds! You want seconds? I'll make sure it's
I had never done that, and I've never had a cat fight before because that is very not who I am. So it was kind of fun to live out that feeling. The Power of the Dog.
She drew chalk stars by our names on the blackboard. I wonder why it was stars she gave us. Why not diamonds? Why not hearts? Why not spades?
Jesse got the script first and was like, I'm meeting with Jane Campion. I was like, oh. I'm like, you're doing this movie. You don't even need to read the script. I had met Jane. Had I met her? No, she had written me a letter I had saved in my email forever. I just saved certain things about working together on something, and it never came to fruition. But then Jessie was doing the movie, and she had cast someone else in my role, and then they couldn't do it. And then Jane came to meet me, and it really worked out for me. But she's been someone, an idol of mine since I saw The Piano and knew of her work. You don't get to see women portray roles like that. And she's also a master filmmaker. Well, what was hard about making that movie was we had a house, but there was nothing inside the house. So we did all the exteriors for the entire film first, and then COVID happened, and then we did all the interiors for the film after. Even though that's how movies are made, you never make things in order. It was hard because when you're not in every day and then suddenly you're like running out of the house crazy, but you haven't done all these other scenes. You're the girl that comes up on set and is just acting crazy. You know what I mean? But you haven't done any of the other scenes that build up to it. So sometimes I felt ridiculous. Benedict and I didn't really have any scenes together, real scenes. We have one where we really talk to each other, but barely. So I really had to create my own monster and all of it, because Rose is really in her own weird movie. And, there's sweet scenes with Jessie, but that's not really what's going on with her, too, Your own mind, playing with itself and messing with yourself. And meanwhile, no one's there. No one's there. But yes, the piano I did learn because the whole purpose of that scene is that like his artistry is so beautiful and effortless, and here I am clunking away at the piano. So I imagine like someone else performing something and knowing that I will never be able to reach that level, and I'm having to hear it, and then I'm having to go in after this person. You know what I mean? Like, so I just would set up little scenarios like that for myself to make myself feel like shit. And then I was fine after.
I really can't dance.
You're dancing. Here, this foot forward.
Jesse and I on the mountaintop was like gorgeous surroundings. I was blown away. But I'm not gonna lie, I felt so dorky doing that scene because it's like, we have our tea and meanwhile we have like a child together, and just such a polite interaction of like two people first kind of falling in love and dancing and like all the beauty in it in a very polite, reserved way. So to me, it felt really dorky. I knew like the first moment that I met him. I remember the meeting at LAX. I remember one of my best friends was like, I remember you telling me that you'll know him for the rest of your life. And that was like 2 weeks into filming. He was a soulmate connection of mine. Civil War.
Like, why didn't I just tell him not to shoot them?
They're probably gonna kill them anyway.
How do you know?
He doesn't know, but that's besides the point. Once you start asking yourself those questions, you can't stop. So we don't ask. We record so other people ask. You want to be a journalist? That's the job.
I got pregnant right after Power of the Dog. I had another child, so I hadn't worked for a little while. And then this was so exciting. I had been a fan of Alex Garland's for so long. And I mean, it could have been like me alone in a room with like a chicken and I would have done the film. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do whatever with a great director. It doesn't matter to me. But this happened to be the script. And I was on the edge of my seat when I read it. And I knew that he was doing something extremely provocative. And I had never done a movie like this. You know, there's a lot of action in it and portraying a photographer. You know, a very different role from what I'd played in the past. For me, that movie and what starts to happen to her towards the end of the film is really an unconscious, her unconscious mind, I think, taking over, warning her not to keep going. So I think her physical body is literally like working against what she's trying to do to stop her.
I know you're really angry about it, and I know you think I don't know shit, but...
I'm not angry about that, Jesse. I don't care what you do or don't know.
Okay, but you are angry with me.
There is no version of this that isn't a mistake. I know, because I'm it.
I started to work with her and I immediately fell in love with her. I was like, we're the same in the way we like to work. I said, what if like I'm your long lost mother and you're my long lost daughter? Just so that even though we're talking about what gear she needs, there's something that's immediately like a really strong pull. Those are the kind of things I like to play with another actor, and she's was very receptive to and loved doing things like that together. It was mostly CGI in terms of, obviously, all of the Washington, D.C. stuff. They built roads and these huge blockades that we shot with tanks and explosions, and they built part of a downtown city. So it was because of shooting in order for the last 2 weeks, it was so loud and so intense. I mean, I would wear earplugs because I would be like this. Otherwise, like, I was so not an action girl, you know? Like, let's get in there. Who cares? Even hearing, like, the blanks hit the tanks, it's like, was so loud. Yeah. So that's good that I did something that's very out of my comfort zone because it was, like, hell for me to do things like that. And some people get high off of it, I think, and I think that's what my character is, you know, adrenaline junkie. But I personally... really, yeah, after those 2 weeks, I was a little bit like, whoa. I mean, now I'd like to do a comedy again. Yeah, I like when female directors write roles that are like women we haven't seen before. So that's really interesting women, basically.